So Josh, I figured out a good use for those PDQ socks.
Oh,
you can pack a tumbler and it's good cushioning. So. Hey, guys, PDQ A. Like Kelly said, you've got the questions, and we pretend really hard to have the answers. So let's do it. Let's do it. What do we got?
Dear Lex and Josh, is there a way PDQ can create a shortcut without having to remote into the computer? Sincerely, Thomas T., the tank engine.
Short answer, yes. And there's a couple ways to do it.
Okay.
The first and the easiest would be to just copy that .lnk or .url, that shortcut, in a file copy step. You can get it out to the machines, or if you want, you can. If you want to get it like on all users' profile, like that would be copying to like C users public desktop. That gets it for all the users.
So I like how you read that. You actually read it. In my mind, it's like, well, I got to remote into it with PDQ. So
yeah.
Magically, how do I do it? That was what was running through my head. But yeah, you can have
so
it.
a quick file copy to C users public desktop. That gets it on the users, all users for that machine's their desktop.
Yeah.
The other way, if you scroll back in the chat, Monica has done it with PowerShell with creating a COM object.
And once you copy that, it becomes easy to paste that. But the initial is, you're building, it's a little bit of work, but it works.
The fastest way is just a copy. Just copy that shortcut.
Absolutely. What else we got?
Hey, Lex and Josh, is there a way PDQ can kick off an MDT deployment as zero touch? I've got it to work, but a user has to be logged into the computer or the PDQ deployment hangs up. Maybe there is some script that will remotely log a computer into an account? Thanks, Brian G.
Hey, Brian.
Okay, so if you can do a command to run MDT, you should be able to PSExec or PowerShell remote a command, I would imagine.
I mean, it sounds like your MDT task sequence might not be working the way you think it is. And you may be running stuff as like deploy user interactive. Ali has a blog that's calling MDT with deploy.
Absolutely. And there's a really good video on that,
or calling deploy with MDT.
Yeah.
And there's a video on that, too. I'd suggest giving that one a check.
And then just check to make sure that the user that you're kicking off the MDT has rights to actually
got to
run
be a
that,
console user. So
yeah. That was probably the best, worst answer I think we've ever done, man.
Well, we were pretending to answer.
Pretend, all right.
Yeah.
I'll drink to that.
All right, guys, we ready?
Yeah.
Hi, guys. I'm deploying in stages, IT, test, production. I'm using auto-download packages with different auto-approval times. The collections in inventory are all using the blah blah version of X. This means when a new version comes, it sees all the clients as old. But since the new version is not approved, yet it keeps trying to deploy the same version. How do I avoid getting false positive deployments? Thanks, Casper.
Thinking that one through for a second.
There's a lot of moving parts in it. Okay.
Yeah.
New version comes out. The variable changes. Everybody goes from latest to old that was there. And so your deployment tries to kick off to... All right, I guess the question is, are you checked that checkbox under deploy?
Yeah, let's
under schedules, which would be under options.
Options.
Stop deploying to targets once they succeed.
Well,
okay.
You probably handle this on the collection side and specifically the targeting in your schedules. So rather than, I don't know if you're targeting using just the built-in collections in the collection library for old, but what you could do is duplicate those so that you can then edit them and then create your own custom variables for maybe, IT test version, prod test version, QA test version, whatever you want to do, and set those as the variables for old. So that you've got this staggered variable that's 1, 2, 3 versions behind, and then you can target those to roll out your updates.
That would definitely work. Colby, question for you, man. So the variable changes. Everybody goes from latest to old. History is in there, but the history of the package hasn't updated. Does that update history yet?
So the target history is cleared when the package updates.
Is downloaded.
Yes.
So from the target history point, this stop deploying targets once they succeed should take care of it.
Reset.
Yes.
And then it resets once you download the package. Okay. That should take care of it. Check that. So that doesn't work.
How you're targeting and how you've got the packages attached to your schedules.
Absolutely. Yeah. Check both of those.
I put out a blog a little bit ago that does this at the most basic level. But that's just with one test group and then production. It looks like you've got maybe 3 different groups, so you'll just need to add in another layer there.
Dear Lex and Josh, can PDQ Deploy or Inventory delete files on user machines? Say delete AppData Local Temp, Windows Temp, user downloads, and empty the recycle bin on a set schedule for all workstations. Thanks in advance, Dustin M.
Yep. Short answer, yes.
Yes. It's how do you want to do it?
Yeah.
PowerShell?
Yes.
Command?
No.
No? PowerShell, definitely.
PowerShell, I'm with PowerShell. For each. A quick for each loop will do that.
Absolutely.
So define your path, what you're trying to delete. You can use a wildcard for the users. So like the path would be C users splat, and then the rest of the directory you want, and the file type.
Absolutely.
And then just for each file that it found, that's found, go ahead and remove item force.
Bang. I like it.
Yeah. We can show that real quick.
Should we show that?
Let's get the IC open, shall we?
I like it. We're going to show it after they bring up the next question.
Yeah, we can bring up the next question. I'll just keep going on this.
All right. So file, colon users.
C, users, splat, some dir. And then after here is for each. So
Your for each loop.
yeah. So for each item in files,
I see you took remove itme.
oh,
Itme. Yes,
Yep.
you learned to type from
I
me.
learned to
It's
type.
me, yes.
Yeah, that's me. So that's the basic syntax of that PowerShell. So find what you want to delete, and then for
Delete
each,
it. Remove it.
remove it.
There you go.
No mention of SOM directory. SOM
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
first, before you start deleting music, you got to find out if there's anything out there you want,
Yeah.
and then grab it, and then delete it. But yeah.
Yep.
Dear Lex and Josh, when using the built-in file copy step, I sometimes run into the specified path file name or both are too long error. The problem seems to be the temp path PDQ is using, adding quite a bit to the total length. Blah, blah, nerd. Is there a way around that besides switching to PowerShell or command? Thanks, Ryan J.
Simple. PowerShell or command will
Yep.
take care of that for you. The other thing you can do would be
The other thing is you can modify actually that directory of that runner path.
big caveat here. Huge. Caveat, okay. If you are going to modify where your target service runs, you need to make sure that share file exists on every machine.
Yes.
Because the assumption is that it is there. If it's not there, fails. That's all.
Yeah, and you can't just type it in here in the UNC path. You also have to give it the logical path of that share route.
So that'll be on, let's say it was on the C drive, C PDQ, right?
Yeah, so if I had a share that was, whack target PDQ, I could put that in the UNC path. Now, let's say it actually existed in like C:shares. I would need to put that in the shared folder of C:shares.
Explicit name. there.
Explicitly, the logical path. Reason being is once we get that target runner over there, we need to register a service. And we need to know where to do that from, and that has to be a logical path.
Absolutely.
So for your use case, rather than having it be, C Windows, admin arsenal, exec, all of those folders, bring it all the way up to the root of maybe just like C:shares.
To be honest with you, though, I just use PowerShell or command because
Copy item.
I just don't like messing with that.
Yeah, this gets tricky quick, especially when you're bringing new machines in.
New machines in, yep.
Yeah.
If they don't have the share, you have issues. So.
Yep.
yeah.
Dear Lex and Josh, I have been having some issues with the agent recently. It often sits at waiting for agent and will not progress until I click to reinstall it. Then it seems to sync up fine. Also, I have been unable to see any computers as an external status when they are off our network. I know that they are online elsewhere because I can connect to the with other service remotely. Any advice? Thanks, Matt Z.
There are a lot of moving parts with
That
the agent.
is a good way to put it.
There are a lot. There can be a lot of things that can cause this. We have made some significant improvements in the customer builds of both inventory and deploy to help with situations like this. With the fact that you can reinstall it,
And then it works.
and then it works.
What version are you on?
Yeah, what version? How many agents do you have out there? And some of it comes down to the hardware running the PDQ server. It might just not be able to keep up.
if you've got that information, shoot it over to support@pdq.com, and the crew there is going to take good care of you.
Yep.
Dear Lex and Josh, is it possible to have 2 different server deploy databases with 1 user account? Example, I want to deploy from the local servers in each office. Sincerely, Darren B.
I'm not quite sure I understand.
Okay.
So
Is it possible to have 2 different server deploy databases? Well, yeah.
Are we talking about databases or are we talking about repositories?
Instances. Well, okay.
Or
well,
instances.
This, right? I could have my corporate, and then I have my local site.
Yep.
And this one use the same.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Sure.
I mean, they're not going to share data by any means, but you could
No.
do that if that's the question. The other question is repository-wise.
Repository-wise, no, you're limited to 1, but we can use DFS.
Yeah. And
So
then
you define it as a DFS namespace, and then you've got a local file server at each site. Then
Files
you're gonna
replicate out?
pull down from the remote site, so you're
Exactly.
not shoving bandwidth everywhere.
you mark your deployments as pull, and
Yep.
bang, bang, bang. It works good that way. So
I hope that answers the question. I hope
kind
that's
of.
what you were getting at.
You know what? I'll drink to that
Yeah.
just because I
'cause I'm
like
not
to
quite
drink.
sure.
So
Yeah.
All right.
Well, howdy, guys. What do y'all recommend to avoid the stuck-on waking while pushing a package to a set of machines? Sincerely, Matthew B.
Matthew,
Waking. Are we doing Wake on LAN?
Wake on LAN. Are we doing Wake on LAN from deploy, or are we doing it from inventory?
Now, first thing, Wake on LAN, just because you set it up and tell it to run and deploy an inventory doesn't mean
Nope.
it's going to work. You've got to have your BIOS set up on your machines. You've got to have your NIC set up. And your security guys have got to let that kind of broadcast go. So
if-
3 parts that are outside of deploying inventory.
And if you're running deploy only, you're limited to your Wake on LAN to the current subnet that it's on. We're not going to traverse subnets there.
Absolutely.
Now, once you get inventory involved, then we can do distributed Wake on LAN.
Which basically, inventory will find a machine on the other
Yep.
subnet and try and have that one waking.
Kind of
machine.
relays and wakes
So-
everything up for you. So it sounds like if you're stuck on waking, it either can't find a machine in the remote subnet if you're doing distributed Wake on LAN, or your machines aren't configured for Wake on LAN in the BIOS and on the NIC.
And just little heads up on that. It's it'll wait up to I think it's 5 to 6 minutes for the wake
I
on
don't know
LAN.
now.
I know it's at least 5 minutes.
Okay.
So if your guys aren't set up, you are going to have a lot of time waiting for machines that are never going to wake. So
Yeah.
if it were me, turn off Wake on LAN, use the heartbeat schedule, so when they come online, they get the stuff then. And
You get it.
that's a good way to take care of that.
Dear Lex and Josh, I have a machine that always fails. It will do, say, 30 steps, and then the account name is invalid or does not exist, or the password is invalid for the account name specified. I've tried all deploy as options with the same result. Is there something wrong with the PDQ service on that machine? Thanks, Dustin
So Tim,
M.
it's one machine, so all the other ones work, but this one. I would say put a bullet in that machine, start over.
Well, so this error can get thrown in a couple situations that I've found.
All right.
Net logon service on that target machine can't facilitate that logon
Okay, what
of
would
the
cause
deploy
that?
user. I've actually seen some Windows updates keep that service
okay.
off to disabled.
Okay,
So a reboot will get that, but if it's set to disabled, even a reboot's not going to help you. You've got to get into services on that machine.
services, yeah. Okay.
The other thing, which may not sound like it would help, but is the DNS client service. So you might have NetLogon running,
but it can't find.
but it can't find the domain controller to go authenticate. So I
yep.
check at those 2 services on that
Absolutely.
machine.
I would have never thought that. Huh. Well
Yeah.
done, sir.
You get enough tickets in on that, you have to dig in a little bit.
Dearest Lex and Josh, do you have any suggestions on the best way to convert all our laptops from the Office 2016 local client to the Office 365 local client?
I got this
Please
one.
help.
Got it.
I got this
Mikey.
one. Uninstall and reinstall. I mean, that's really. Office does not play well with Office. Is that a good way to put it?
Well, it's true.
Okay, so we have got videos on uninstalling, and we've got videos on installing, and I just uninstall and then follow it up with an install.
We got a package to uninstall Office.
Absolutely,
So
run that.
It's
and then
pre-built.
that's probably the best way to do it. Would you nest that package, or would you stage it?
I'd nest it if I put a reboot step in there in the middle.
Very good point. Reboot step needed. So
Dear Josh, Dear Lex, can PDQ Deploy be configured to deploy software within a single Active Directory domain that has multiple remote sites connected with slow WAN links? If so, what is the optimal way of configuring this? Repositories at each site kept in sync with DFSR? Ideally, I'd like to deploy the software centrally from our HQ, but have the majority of network traffic occur in the remote sites and not traverse the WAN. Thanks, Paul H.
Paul, you answered your own question.
Yes, you did.
DFS.
Now, DFS, set it up, replicate, and the big thing is this. You need to make sure you are in pull mode.
Yep.
Okay? Pull mode's going to, instead of pushing that file from the console out, it's going to say, hey, go grab the file from, and it'll be a DFS namespace, which should resolve to their local copy.
Shortest path first.
Boom, grab it there, and yep, that's the way to do it.
Dear Lex and dear Josh, is there a way to use different credentials for different steps or on a per package basis for nested packages? An example, I often deploy to non-domain machines, but some steps involve copying files with PowerShell from a network drive, which requires domain credentials, but the rest of the steps require the local admin credentials on that machine. Thanks, Ryan J.
Hey, Ryan. So in deploy land, credentials for deployment exist at the deployment level, not at the step level, not at the package level. That's at the deployment at that time. So short answer, in deploy natively, no. Let's get some scripting involved.
There you go.
Go nuts. Chris has got some blogs out there specifically for PowerShell and encrypting and using credentials. So what you could do is you could actually run the package as a PowerShell step as the deploy user that may not have rights to do what you want to do, but the step itself could use different sets of credentials defined in PowerShell.
So here we could select some different credentials.
Yep.
In this case, but you would have to do that for each of the different.
Yeah, which once you're in a nest, that eliminates the need for the nest.
Now the other thing you can do, now this again, not at the step level, okay? You can always tell it to use inventory scan credentials, which the nice thing about that is whatever you've got the machine set at the scan level, it's going to do.
Yeah. So short answer, credentials are at the deployment level, but you can get fancy in the steps with some
Fancy
scripting.
and schmancy.
Hey Lex and Josh, I'd like to set up a deploy package that deploys a baseline set of packages for new machines. What's the best way to handle launching that baseline package when the new PC comes online? Thanks, Tyson B.
Now I can think of a couple of different routes. What's your favorite?
My favorite's a nested package.
Okay.
So if you haven't used a nested package before, we can show that real quick. So we've got a bunch of packages in the console, so we can fire up a new package. We'll call it baseline.
Now the great thing is I think he has built the baseline. He just wants to know as soon as that machine comes online, how is he going to kick it off? How that baseline package.
Ooh, I like
That's
Heartbeat.
Okay, Heartbeat works.
Yep.
Okay, so you've got your Active Directory sync.
Yep.
Okay, I guess you could set up a schedule. So now here's a couple of things, right? You could set up a schedule off of, you could build a let's say in Active Directory, all your machines go into a new computers OU. Okay, and then once you're done, you could have your baseline run and say, look, okay, I'm going to schedule this. If there is anything in this OU, run this on the hour or on the 15 minutes, or I guess you could probably do a Heartbeat at that point too.
So if it were me, I'd go just hyper aggressive with a collection.
Okay.
A collection that was, let's say they dumped it to new computers, the OU.
Okay.
I'd create a collection that said, show me all computers in this OU. So something like 80 parent path contains new computers.
Okay.
Then I bounce over here to deploy, and I get a new schedule. I would target by linking to that inventory collection. So pick your collection.
Now you could also do that off an Active Directory collection. The big deal there is you need to make sure at the end you move it. Otherwise, the next time the schedule kicks off, it's going to run. And Colby's eyebrows went up.
Yeah.
Do you got something cool to add? Oh, wise one of the everything knowledge.
No, not particularly. Just looking back your way.
I guess the other thing is I've also, Hanks, right, across the hall from me, is like, dude, do it in a security group. Access security group from AD, and then just delete it out of the security group.
It's basically, the gist of it is find a way to identify the machines in inventory.
Yep.
Pick a way, tie it to a schedule, set a trigger that works for you.
Yep, and the last step, get it out.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Dear Lex and Josh, is there any way I can scan to find installed applications or resources within the Java cache? Thanks, Kathleen F.
Does Java write to registry? Can you WMI scan it? Those are the two first things I would go after.
That's the first thing I'm going after, too.
Watch this. Let's both look over at Kobe. Do you know the answer to that one, bro?
I've never played with Java that much.
I guess
Get
we're all
away from
drinking.
Java. How about that? We'll
Yeah.
drink to that one.
We're all drinking to that one.
You know, I try and find stuff in WMI or the registry if Java's dropping stuff there and head after it that
Yeah.
way.
Or maybe a file scan, because they said Java
I guess
cache.
you could file
Yeah.
scan. That's true.
So maybe.
The chunks
Dear
were
Lex
stumped.
and
Sure.
Josh, in inventory, when you right-click a system and then go to Tools, Run Command to use the command prompt on a machine, is there a way to run commands and then answer them if the command requires an answer? For example, if you run blah blah blah, it will state that the disk is in use. Do you want to schedule it for the next reboot and then waits for a yes or a no input?
So
Thanks,
run-
Jeremy O.
Run commands. Any of your commands that you can force an answer to, like delete the file and force a yes, or replace the file, force a yes. You'd want to put that on the command line. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, there's that prompt is just capturing standard out.
So interactively, no, but if you can feed the if this comes up, go ahead and put a yes at a, like a force. It's like GP update force. Take care of any questions that come.
Are you sure you want to do this?
No, it's just
Yeah,
bang,
they've got to
out
run
the gate.
silently, just like deploy. What you get out here in this output down here, this is just a standard out from the command. It's not going to be any type
So
of...
if you were to run a dir, a dir, that you just
Yeah.
see the standard output of the dir.
if I can
I see.
type-
So, and again, it's just, here's the information. You can't interact with it. But again, dir /p, I don't know, page, you wouldn't really want to do that
Yeah.
either. But again, if you were going to write a file out and, you put the /y to go ahead and overwrite the file, you'd want to add the parameters at that level to do that.
Yep.
So find out if you can force parameters at that point.
Hey Josh, hey Lex. I've seen that you can run PDQ packages from a command line. Can you initiate an inventory scan from command line? This would be handy if I were sitting in front of a client that I just made changes on and want a current scan el pronto. Thanks, Chad B.
Hey, Chad. Yeah. You can get to, from an elevated command prompt, we put the inventory and deploy executables in your path.
So if you were to type PDQ inventory and hit enter, it's going to give you the list of commands that you can run or parameters you can pass
Yep.
at the command line.
So we can do PDQ inventory, scan,
There's no slash. on that,
that's-
brother.
So it's expecting some targets in here, but there it is. And then you can always run PDQ inventory, scan computers. Is it /help?
I think it's, you obviously can't type like me.
Oh.
But if you do, it doesn't work. So scan computer space, you put the computer name in there, wouldn't you? Or
Oh, that's asking for a scan profile. It's a full help dialog that I can never remember.
I believe it's like it would be inventory, scan computers, and put in like Allen Rails.
So it wants a profile, so standard.
Oh, standard.
And then we don't have any computers. So Allen Rails. Did I type that right?
I think so. And
Oh, there's the usage.
there you go. There's the usage tree. If you do it enough times, you will learn.
You'll get the usage. You just have to not type.
Scan computers, scan profile, computers. So you got to whack computer in the string,
Yeah.
and then there you go. So be better than us,
Yeah.
and do it right the first time, and things are much better.
Dear Lex and Josh, is it possible to make PDQ push instead of pulling automatically when deploying to a different domain? Currently, I have to manually switch it for the individual deploy. Thanks, Paul Y.
Okay, so this, right there under options. If you download, let's say I download 2 versions of 7-zip. One I can set here at push, and then I can send that one out to the ones I want it pushed to. And I can download another one and set it at pull.
Pull.
There you go.
Yeah. Can we see that question again? I'm wondering if it's a multi-domain. Are we talking about credentials? Are you running into credentials problems between doing a push and a pull? Like does push error will pull works?
He's looking at doing it automatically, so I imagine he wants to build one and just set it and forget it. So that's how I do it. 2 downloads, one for a push, one for a pull. Send the pull.
Yeah.
Pull one's the one to pull, and the push to the push, and there you go.
Dear Lex and Josh, did the sleep issue ever get resolved? I'm talking about when a computer reboots by a batch file and not by a PDQ command, and during the sleep step, the deploy package fails. Thanks, Thomas the Tank Engine T.
Thomas, so here's kind of an issue in regards to it. If I, from deploy, issue a sleep state, right, a sleep step,
Yep.
I'm going to wait for it. Okay, if I'm going to execute a batch file, I'm going to execute a batch file, but I don't know, I can do anything in there. I can reboot the machine, I can shut it off, right? But because it happens in the batch file, deployed, other than the fact it's running a batch file, doesn't know
what it's going to do. We don't interpret what your script is going to do. We just get it there and run it.
Yeah. So, a couple of things. If you're going to issue a sleep step in a batch file, make sure you change your timeout.
Yeah.
Expand your
even
timeout.
Then we're in a risky game because you get the runner over there, the runner's got your script, it executes the script, and all of a sudden the machine goes away. The machine comes back online, that runner might still exist. It might want to come back, maybe not. I don't know that we were ever actually going to look into fixing that. I don't know if we can. Colby, did you see?
I believe I have a ticket in, and it's sort of we'll look at it eventually type of deal.
Okay. Yeah.
I think for me, it's like we ran a batch file. You wanted to run a batch file, I ran a batch file.
Yeah.
What your batch file did,
I
can't control.
No.
It's like your PowerShell. I can't walk through and verify everything on the PowerShell. And if your PowerShell doesn't return any return codes, I don't know what happened, right?
We try and catch them, but
Same
it's not
kind
a
of
guarantee.
thing, I think.
We'll try.
So you might want to either break that batch file up, run portions, sleep, and then run another portion if you can.
The difference is if you run a reboot step and deploy, we're going to put a little file in that runner directory called lock. It's a reboot.lock. And then we can look for that when it comes back, and that's when we know that machine's rebooted.
There you go.
Your batch file's not doing that. Deploy doesn't know to look for it.
Hey, Lex and Josh. Being an organized and borderline OCD IT guy, I like to keep my custom deployments grouped in a clean folder structure in Deploy. In inventory, there doesn't seem to be the ability to create folder objects to group custom collections. I use a large amount of dynamic collections, and it's driving me cray-cray that I cannot group them in organized folders. Will we one day have the ability to create folders in inventory? Thanks, Kyle C.
Let's ask fate.
I don't know if it's going to come to inventory.
We don't know what time or if that'll be, done. I can say this. It sounds good to me, but as for when we do it, I don't know.
Here's what you can do, and what I do, because I'm the same way as you. Create a new collection. Don't put any filters in it. Oops. Well, if I can create it.
You hit cancel.
I
do that all the time.
I've got this folder one here. You can change the icons of these, and then you can put your collections underneath them. Don't use drill down. Just put them in there and use them as just like organizational structures.
That's a good way to do it. I've never tried that. I like that.
And then you can change the icon on it if you want to. You can change the appearance so you can separate, visually your folders from your actual collections.
Very cool.
So that's how I'd handle
That's
that.
a better answer than I came up with.
Dear Lex and Josh, I've deployed the agent to my internal machines, and for the most part it's great. Many times when a package is deployed, it will fail on internal workstations with the agent giving the error, modified packages can't be deployed to external agents. If I run a scan on those machines and then rerun the deploy, it works great. Am I doing something wrong for it to fail in the first place? Thanks, Jeff W.
Jeff, the first question I have is, are you getting enough information to necessitate having that agent on your internal machines?
Yeah.
I mean, it does add overhead.
It does. The other thing is, what are your agent statuses? The only time that you should be throwing that error is if they are external. And we're checking that agent status based on the listening port of inventory.
Yep. 7337, unless you change it.
So go to your machines in inventory, see what they're reporting. Are they internal or are they external? If they're external, but you know they're internal, you can run PowerShell to test that connection.
So the big thing is check the firewall to make sure you can actually hit them that way. That's how internally, if I want to test that, I go turn the firewall off to print, file share and print and ping, and then it says it's external, and then it pretends it's running external. So test connection, your server.
Run that from one of your machines. If it returns true, you know the connection's alive, the firewall is there. If it returns false, you've got a firewall on the way.
So if you guys can't see that, that is test dash net connection, the name of the machine dash port, and then 7337. So
Dear Lex and Josh, is there a way to display a progress bar to the user when running a deployment? Kind of defeats the purpose of silent install, I know. Thanks, Casper S.
Yet.
No.
No.
I think of some horrible ways to do it with like Windows Forms.
You can kludge it.
You
can
kludge it,
something, but don't
Like
do it,
something
man.
in PowerShell. And
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
PowerShell, Windows Forms, but you're in for a bad time.
Yeah.
That sounds
not
awesome.
gonna have a good time, man.
I'd love that. I don't know what use case you'd have for that, but that sounds hilarious.
And I want to do it just to see if I can.
Right, exactly.
That would be the only reason.
Put it in the notification bar.
Check this out.
I guess you could do toast notifications in Windows 10 now. So.
True.
Dear Lex and Josh, here's a question we've seen once before, I think. Is there a way to specify which address gets displayed in the IP address column in inventory? Our environment is IPv4 and IPv6, so the majority of our inventory entries show the v6 address. I'd rather it show the IPv4 address. It's handier for scripting and using inventory tools. Thanks in advance, Valerie B.
Okay, I think we had two thoughts. One, disable IPv6, then you only get IPv4.
But if she's using both, not an
Okay.
option.
And then I know JJ has a good answer, which is
I mean, it's not my
webcast
answer,
this
but
day,
yeah.
5 minutes, 10 seconds
We had-
into it.
Yeah.
We
yeah,
had-
I found, I think the question had been asked 2 weeks ago. So if you go to Trick Streets, sys7 feats,
Ah.
at like 5 minutes, 28 seconds. That's when
Is it
it's
28?
answered.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, he got it down to the seconds. I was just, great.
I looked it up before.
But, there's a couple ways to go about it. Again, I'm with you. IPv6 is too much to think about, so I just disable IPv6. If it's possible, that's the best way.
Dear Lex and Josh, DNS plus Surface Pro equals ARG. We use Surface Pros with docks. It seems even though you dock a Surface Pro before turning it on, the Surface Pro Windows 10 turns Wi-Fi on and it registers with DNS and then turns it off when it detects the wired LAN through the dock. The problem is PDQ scans and packages will fail because they are picking up the Wi-Fi based DNS entry instead of the wired based DNS. Thoughts? Chad B.
Chad, I'm going to assume that your DNS is set up properly with scavenging and all of the other bells and whistles in the previous three webcasts we've done on DNS.
Yep.
So let's assume
That being said,
still a problem, especially with laptops and docks.
absolutely. I mean, it is a very normal practice. Dock your machine, take your laptop to the meeting in the meeting room, and then come back. So if you go to Preferences and Inventory and Deploy, and we've got it up on the screen here, right here, you want to circle that boy. Test multiple addresses and name resolution. So it'll start and it'll go down the list till somebody answers, and then it'll go.
And it's important to note that it's just going to wait for a machine to answer, something to answer on that IP. It's not going to guarantee it's the correct one. We're just going to get the first response.
But the first one, yep. So
Yep.
generally you're going to be probably okay, especially if your scavenging set up right.
Yep.
But that would take care of it for you. Well, at least a lot of the issues anyways.
Yeah.
Dear Josh and Lex, changing the icon in a folder in inventory is great, but can we import custom icons in there? Thanks, Sloppery B.
I'm going to go with no.
I don't think
No?
you can. I think I've tried.
Did you say that with a question mark? No. Colby.
There are feature request tickets for that, but no, it is not currently possible.
So it's no longer a no. It's a no.
Nah.
No.
Hey Josh and Lex, can a particular package be set to deploy to only one machine at a time while everything else deploys at the default 8 machines at a time? Thanks, William Z.
Everything that I'm thinking of trying to get that to work the way you want it to is not looking good. I don't think
No,
there's
that
a way to
one,
do
I'm
that.
like, you could. with a no, that won't work.
Nope.
With a scan, no, scan step wouldn't help you. You could no, that.
No, because those are global preferences. in
Okay,
Deploy.
so you could use the CLI.
yeah,
That's the only way I can think to do it. Is you'd have to do some iteration of code with a for and X loop and do this one,
Yeah.
wait till it's done, and then do the next one and wait till it's done.
yeah. Actually, take some bit of PowerShell from Ali's blog, looking for the runner servers.
There
That
you go.
little bit of code there, and then do a for each object in PowerShell.
Object, okay.
Yeah, don't do a for each, or else you're going to end up doing them all at once. So do a for each object, and wait for that lock to go away before you
Syntax is so important.
Yes.
Gosh. Yeah, absolutely. That's the only way I can think to do it.
And our final question of the day, what's the best way to convert to a central server from individual workstations? Last time I tried, it seemed incredibly slow. Thanks, Matt V.
Okay. First of all,
Slow.
how many
Yeah.
are you hooking up?
Are we consolidating data, or are we just picking one and calling it the server?
So if you're going to just pick one and call it a server, and you got a VM, like when I was maintaining VMs, I made sure my machine had all the available RAM until it needed to give some to somebody else, right? So, no, jokingly, make sure you got enough power, okay? And that's processor and memory, because the memory, as long as you can load the database into memory, you have enough to hold that, it's going to be significantly quicker. Okay? And then if you've got a lot of end nodes, and again, this will just help out anytime you got a write to disk, an SSD.
Yeah.
So that's hardware-wise. Now, on the flip side, if you've got, like he was saying, you're trying to consolidate them, you're going to have to pick one that's the master and export
Yep.
and import stuff.
Get collections, get packages, get everything on one. Call that your master.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily have to be the master to run the server, but that's going to be our master database. So once you've got that database, everything you want consolidated there, use the KB to move PDQ to another server, move it, and then just options, change from local mode to central server mode, good to go.
And again, if you can spin up a VM, you can play with it.
Yeah.
Give it a little more power, a little more memory, a little more power, a little more, until
Yeah.
you find your sweet spot.
Yeah, and let everybody else keep using their local consoles until you're ready.
Wow, that was fun.
That was fun.
It was a good time. I think we only got, we definitely got stumped
We did get
once.
stumped, yeah.
So,
Thanks for watching.
and way to stump the chumps. Catch y'all later.
See ya.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, Darren B. and Tyson B. No relation, actually. Winners of PDQ swag, send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to our support forums. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week.